All right, this is Brindlewood Bay, Tourist Season Part 9. Let's do a quick bit of character recap, at least in terms of conditions. I'll go through them. So Esther currently has Bloodhound and still Bride of the Occluded King. I'll be curious to see if that comes up today. And then Ruth has Shaken and Frightened, which seem like two versions of the same thing, but that's okay. Ida has Hurt, which is an emotional hurt, we should clarify. And Laura, we're not sure if we're going to have Laura today, but Laura has the Black Dog, the Clouded Past, and also Frightened. Let's talk about the mystery, which is All Hallows Scream. So it's a complexity 6. We're trying to figure out who murdered, well, maybe two people, because Abner Vidal was found dead by Mrs. White, the maid, and then Mrs. White was murdered in the dark, a la the movie Clue, by the way. And I guess there's maybe possibly two like investigations there. Maybe it's the same killer, maybe it's not. We'll see as you do your theorizing later on, hopefully. But we do have 5 clues currently. A shattered Brady Award, which apparently was the weapon used against Abner. We have a rejected application for a building permit. We know that Sam Turlington, who's Abner's local business partner, he and Abner were trying to get a waterfront real estate deal done, but apparently they're having some trouble with the city. There was a plastic pumpkin with half-empty pill bottles in it behind the bar. A pair of freshly muddy boots was found in Coco and Abner's wardrobe. And also in Coco and Abner's room, amid some decorative cobwebs, was a real human finger. We have our suspects are Coco Vidal, former actress and Abner's wife. Elena Visage, maybe a former actress, definitely a somewhat washed up actress, used to be in a lot of Abner's pictures. Gordon Thune, the local banker. Sam Turlington, the aforementioned local business partner. June Willoughby, June Willoughby is, oh, there's Adrian. Now I feel like I have to do the recap again. June Willoughby is a local socialite. Mrs. White, the maid, is dead. We have Richard, an NPC introduced by Dan, who was a former grad student of Ruth's and now a sort of present-day flirtatious love interest, possibly. And Marcus Greaves, Abner's business manager back in Hollywood. Hello, Adrian. We were just doing a recap, and regrettably, you just missed the mystery recap. But I think it's okay. We'll introduce introduce Laura at the tail end of this mystery, and it'll be weird and interesting to see how she fits in. And then we're at 13 void clues right now, which, because of the Fox Mulder move being in the game, means we are 1 void clue away from unlocking void mystery. So I think that'll probably happen today. We also have 3 void clues just from this mystery alone, which means your Fox Mulder move, Ida, is at +3 right now whenever you decide to take that bonus. I don't think you've done it yet.
No, and I remember last time that we were about to hit a +4 on it. Maybe we were waiting on a void clue from someone.
Well, the void clues are always defined by me, but
yeah, well, no, we're right. But I meant like as part of some lingering move. We talked before the session that whether or not there was one. I just remember that I was about to hit a +4 on that, and I don't.
Yeah. Oh, I think we do have 4 because we have the heavy mist. We have Ida's deceased husband being part of the conspiracy. We have music playing backwards saying the child will rise, and then we have a literal minotaur walking into the party. Okay. So that is 4. You're right. Okay. Yeah. So Adrian, a lot of stuff happened last session. We started the mystery All Hallows Scream. You can go ahead and take an experience point for the resolution of exit stage death if you want to do that right now for Laura. That'd be great. F it. I'm just going to do the recap again. I think it'll be easier. So All Hallows Scream, basically, the Mavens are currently at a Halloween party for a former B-grade filmmaker named Abner Vidal and his wife Coco Vidal. They're hosting it. Abner turns up dead. His head was in a basin used for bobbing for apples, and he was discovered by Mrs. White, their maid. In the middle of like sort of trying to get a hold of that situation, the lights went out, and then Mrs. White was murdered as well. So now Mrs. White and Abner are both dead. We have 5 clues currently. I've listed them there if you want to just kind of go through them there on your own, Adrian, but that's kind of the deal there. But we have, importantly, we have all these suspects, and everyone is sort of like just at the house. It's a bottle mystery. No one's leaving, right? So we have Coco Vidal, who's Abner's wife, former actress. Elena Visage, another former actress who used to be in Abner's pictures. Gordon Thune, the local banker, brother of Gregor Thune from The Last Mystery, incidentally. Sam Turlington, Abner's local business partner. June Willoughby, a local socialite and snob, although she's, I don't know, became kind of like a sidekick of Ruth's last time. Let's see, what else? Mrs. White, the maid, is now dead. We have a new character that's not in the mystery that that Ruth introduced, which is Richard, a former grad student of Ruth's, and now a sort of romantic interest of hers, on and off romantic interest. And then Marcus Greaves, Abner's business manager from his film days. We unlocked a bunch of void clues, and some of them were really important. So there was a heavy mist that kind of settled in, and there were shadowy figures in the mist. That was nothing else has happened with that, but that was something everybody noticed. The big one is that Hugh, Ida's deceased husband, turns out to be a member of the Midwives, or he was, because they found a film reel. Actually, a film reel just started playing in the couple's mansion. A black and white grainy film showing Hugh coming out of the cave near Snowdrop House, dressed in a cowl, and he actually like made eye contact with the camera and smiled, and like this has kind of set Ida off. Like Ida's kind of in a weird place right now because of it, as you might imagine. And then like at the very end of the session, the music that was playing in the mansion started going backwards and started you could hear a message in the backwards lyrics of the song, which was, "The child will rise, the child will rise," like that kind of thing. And also Ruth, who kept answering the door every time a new person showed up. The last person who showed up trick-or-treating was a very tall, muscular man in a very convincing Minotaur mask, who just walked in, said nothing to Ruth, walked in. He doesn't have a plastic pumpkin, so I'm not sure he's a trick-or-treater. And that's sort of where we're at with everything. Does anybody have any questions about anything? Okie doke. So I guess the thing we need to figure out at the start here is, do we have any beginning of session moves that need to get resolved? Scarecrow, I assume, is one of them.
Yep.
And then I picked up Dale Cooper last session.
So what does it remind us what that does? Let's read it.
Yeah. So Dale Cooper, add 1 to my sensitivity. So currently I am at the max of 3 on sensitivity, which is fun. At the beginning of each session, the keeper will give you a void clue in the form of a strange, unsettling dream you experience. No 2 Mavens can have this move at the same time.
Ah, good. Well, there it is. There's our 14th void clue straight away. How are we going to introduce this right now, considering you're not asleep? We'll think about that. I'll come back to it. Any other beginning of session moves that we need to contend with right now? Okay. Then with that said, oh yeah, thank you for the reminder, Esther. We've had a lot of champagne as well. The champagne has been flowing freely. I think fully half the Mavens are drunk at this point, or maybe more than half. Okay, good. I think I want to get Laura on scene, and then we'll deal with the custom moves, or the character moves. So Laura,
my only question,
sure.
towards Laura. No, that's fine. My question towards Laura was: so last time we saw Laura was that she had breakfast at her favorite breakfast place, and then walking back home, during the breakfast, she saw the black dog, right? And she went home, and she was determined to look at that old kind of Indian book to figure out whether there's something in there that could help her get rid of this apparition.
Interesting. So you're asking like if you've done that? Is that the question?
Well, or if this is because we always had Laura kind of off from, if this is basically where we see her first is
I'm
engaging with this book.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, do you want to just narrate a little scene for us, or do you have something in mind?
Yeah, I mean, the question is whether that would be an occult move to work with this book at this point.
I think so, because
what we had when we.
Yeah, I think the book is a good justification for doing the occult move for starters, and then it sounds like the result you want is to sort of banish an apparition or banish a spirit, right? Is that kind of what we're going for here? Okay. Okay. I like that a lot. Let's talk about the moves then. So the occult move reads: when you engage in an activity related to the supernatural or the occult for the first time, we've imagined what your actions would look like as a move. And so we're saying here that what is the action? Like, what does the book have you do?
So I think actually what the book have me do is a series of yoga moves, because that's what book is from, right? From this kind of, it's kind of this book that somehow was transmitted from this old yoga teacher, and it was exhibited at the embassy in India, and Laura kind of stole it, and she never really got into using these moves, but it's something between a ritual and a yoga series of yoga moves as a banishing ritual or something like that, I think.
Okay, interesting. And so go ahead and roll sensitivity. Let's see how it goes first.
Okay, let's see. Roll it here because I don't have. That's a 10.
A 10, awesome. Let's take a look at that. On a hit, it works. We'll write the move. We'll write it another time, but basically it's going to work. And now everybody can access this. And yeah, I think that's it. So basically, you are going to be able to banish the black dog from at least haunting you and terrorizing you. Give us a scene. What does it look like?
So I think at least Laura has this feeling that the dog followed her home, and so she's kind of looking out of the window again and again while kind of going through this book that she had taken out of the back of the closet before she left for breakfast, and then and I think it takes her basically the whole day to kind of understand what she has to do. And she always nervously glances out of the window during the day while she's sitting there kind of going through, making notes. And I think quite late at night, and she has this feeling like she's never 100% sure, but she feels like maybe the dog is out there. She sees these red eyes somewhere between the trees or something. She's not 100% sure. But then she settled on a series of moves, and she puts out a yoga mat, and she very consciously kind of concentrates and does this series of 3 or 4 moves. And then she sits there staring out of the window for maybe 10 minutes or so, very intensely, and she doesn't see the eyes anymore. And I think then she gets up, she grabs like some old costume. We'll figure out what that is in a moment. And then she very late, I don't know what time it was now at the party, but maybe like shortly before midnight. Okay, no, that okay. So basically around that time she leaves, and she knows she's late to the party, but she gathered enough courage now with feeling that she has, at least for now, gotten rid of the dog.
I love it.
And she walks over to the house.
Yeah, you can clear that condition. I think that's good. I think before you arrive, let's talk about this dream and then also the scarecrow move. I think I'm gonna, since we're getting ready to do a sweepsweek mystery as well, which means we're getting ready to really, really lean into the gonzo and the over the top in our production schedule here. I think that the dream is going to be like a shared dream between everybody at the house. It's going to be black and white, and it's going to be like old Hollywood glamour. Everyone is there, Sheriff Dalrymple, all the suspects. The house more or less looks the same, but the things have been changed to be, everything looks a little bit more grand, a little bit more old Hollywood. Let's make it a paint the scene. As the color fades away from your vision, and there's also a Minotaur walking around, how do we know that, how does the house look more old Hollywood right now? Whoever wants to say. Everybody can speak though.
Every light in the house has been replaced by a chandelier.
Nice.
I think that the music has been replaced with like a live sort of swing band.
Nice. Dan or Adrian, any ideas?
I think all like the modern candy on the tables and so on has been replaced by these kind of old-timey chocolate and 1920s, 30s sweets.
I love it.
And lots of sweet wallpaper treatments and like wood paneling is on the walls.
Nice. In this shared dream, everyone is also like dolled up in old Hollywood glamour. So June Willoughby is wearing like a sort of glitzy fishtail gown, and her hair is kind of done in like a, platinum blonde Marseille wave sort of thing, right? All the men are in like tuxedos and nursing martini glasses. How are you all dressed in your old Hollywood glamour?
I think Ida is very, very Audrey Hepburn, like simple black dress, got the hair all stacked, that sort of thing.
Nice.
So Ruth has like a very like extravagant sort of zebra stripe thing going on.
I love it.
I think that Esther's cat suit has been replaced with a equally tight-fitting sequin gown that's cut like really low.
Nice. Ruth, there's a ring at the bell. Ding dong, ding dong.
I'll get it.
At the door will be Laura. Laura, how are you dressed? In the dream.
In the dream, I think she's in this kind of short-haired 1920s woman, like flapper style.
Let's just have that moment with Ruth and Laura.
Oh,
Is
hey,
this
well,
is this
welcome.
the party? I'm sorry I'm late. I hear the music. That's what I'm here for. Are people dancing already? Am I too late for the dance?
No, I think you're right on time, actually.
That's great. I could use some fun. I had quite a day, but now I'm finally feeling better.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're at a party, right? So, I mean, there's plenty of champagne.
That sounds good. And I mean, there's so much going on in the last. This hopefully will just be a normal party. You know, no trouble, no dark, unexpected happenings or anything like that. So just a normal party.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it'll be a great time.
So let's have a drink and do some dancing.
Sounds good.
Ida, the Minotaur approaches you, and he walks down a hall that you don't remember seeing before, and you're at the end of the hall that he's walking down, or he's walking away from you. And the hall seems incredibly long and twisty, right? It's almost like an optical illusion, right? As the Minotaur walks down the hall. And then the Minotaur turns and raises his large fist, and he beckons you. What do?
I think Ida, a bit caught up in this, dream space. I think in the way that you don't question a lot of things in dreams, she sees this, and especially again tying in some of her more experiences lately with the occult and the strange. I think she just sort of like nods, like, yeah, this is normal enough. And she takes a few hesitant at first, but then more determined steps after the creature.
You follow the creature, and that twisty hall turns into another hall, and then it turns into another. Left, right, north, east, south, west. You are just wandering around in this maze of halls that you definitely don't remember from the party before, until you reach a space that is, it's like a theater with a large velvet curtain that's sort of blocking the stage. And the Minotaur walks up onto the stage and slips behind this velvet curtain. What do?
I think Ida will find a seat, maybe 2 or 3 rows back from the stage, and have her seat and wait expectantly for the show.
I'm curious, I want to check in with Esther. What are you doing at the party right now?
I think it's a dream, so I feel all subconsciously. Maybe I followed Ida. I saw her go down the hallway, so I've been following her.
I like it. You get lost, but you find, this is the first thing in color, a single golden thread that is floating in the air. Do you follow the thread?
I think at first, I think there's like a hesitation. There's like a desire to go and find Ida, but it's a weird dream. So it probably like captures my attention, and then I end up following it despite my best interests.
The thread leads you ultimately on the stage, though you can't see the audience because the curtain is closed. You see the Minotaur standing next to a large, ancient, gnarled tree that seems to have been taken root in the middle of the stage. And the Minotaur beckons you closer. What do you do?
I think I walk onto the stage a few steps and then stop.
Ruth, there's another ring at the bell, or ring at the door. Ding dong, ding dong.
Well, time to go get the door.
You open the door, and there's no one there. But on the ground, there is a small bronze pyramid. It's also in color. It's very warm. You can feel its warmth from where you're standing. What do you do?
I mean, I'm not going to just turn down a free bronze pyramid. So I'm definitely picking that thing up and checking it out.
Indeed. You take the bronze pyramid. It is warm to the touch. And as soon as you pick it up, you can hear your own heartbeat in your head. Bum, 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 bum. But that's your clue, your floating clue, anyway. The bronze pyramid. Laura, what are you doing right now?
I think dancing, first of all. And I think after that, Laura might go out to the terrace. Maybe in the stream version, they have a really nice, very unthreateningly looking dog that kind of is out on the terrace, and so she's there and petting the dog. And she's very oblivious now to anything. Like, she doesn't know that this party anyway there was anything yet, and also in the dream. So I think she's really treating this as kind of a quiet time off, not noticing anything strange around her.
I should think not, especially if you didn't notice the Minotaur walking around, right? Good. The curtain opens, Ida, and on stage you see Esther, the Minotaur, and this tree that I described before. And as soon as you lay eyes on the tree, you hear your heartbeat. You can hear it. Bum, 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 bum. The Minotaur extends his hand to Esther, inviting her to join him center stage. But Esther, well, Esther, what do you do?
I take like a few more steps and then stop.
He steps closer, and at this point, we start to hear tango music. Bum, 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 bum. The heartbeats sort of like change. Bum, 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 bum. Do you dance the tango with the Minotaur?
Yes, I have had enough champagne, even in the dream.
You are dancing the tango with the Minotaur. And Ida, at this point, you can tell that the heartbeat is not coming. It's not your heartbeat. The heartbeat is coming from the tree. You can hear it underneath the rhythm of the tango. What do you do?
I think that Ida would like, because you can to some degree control your heart rate by slowing your breathing or adjusting that. I think she would try to slow her breathing and get her heartbeat to align.
Interesting. Ida, you quite suddenly find yourself on stage, kneeling before the tree. Esther and the Minotaur dancing behind you. You can feel the warmth coming from the tree, and you start to even see little trickles of red, the only thing of color in the scene. Little trickles of red, like red tree sap dribbling down between the bark. And you can see that the bark is loose. Little bits of it are flaking off. What do you do?
I think she would like reach out under a loose piece and tug it off and feel for this sap to determine its nature.
The sap is definitely blood. You pull away the bark and you see that the tree has a heart, a large heart. Thump, 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 bum, ba-dum, bum, ba-dum. The Minotaur stops, just steps away from the dance. Esther keeps dancing, and he pulls the heart out from the tree and offers it to you, a la Dany Targaryen. What do you do?
Oh boy. I think that Ida, she was shaken earlier, and because of all the stuff related to the occult, she's had a lot of time to like rethink her life, rethink what she thought she knew. And in this sort of dreamlike liminal space, I think she's feeling kind of reckless, untethered, I guess I would say. And so I think she reaches out to take it. And I guess a question, is this the kind of thing that you take and then take a bite out of? Is that?
Sure.
I think she does that.
As soon as you sink your teeth into it, the red bits of blood smeared on your mouth and the chunks of meat between your teeth being also in color. We just see you there standing there like that. And then the dream ends for everyone, and everyone's back at the party. Ruth, you are holding the pyramid, though. And everyone else is there. Laura, what did you actually dress as? What was your costume?
So I think he dressed, I think, as the lemon that her sister dressed at. Like maybe I'm not sure if she took that or she has something similar, but I think that's what she is here as.
Very good. So we're back. Everyone is sort of more or less where we left them before. No sign of the Minotaur walking around, by the way, even though everybody saw him come in. Also, Ruth, at this point, what are you doing?
Well, if Laura's actually somewhere I can see her, I would just kind of fill her in on what's happened up to this point, about all the murder and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. Esther, what are you doing?
Well, pre the dream, I think I was talking to Ida on the porch. So I guess I'm probably just still hanging out with Ida. You know what I'm doing? I'm keeping my eye out for who was it? I think it was Sam, who maybe wants to get down and dirty and frame the sheriff with me.
Oh, that's right. It was because he thinks that the sheriff is one of the sort of like old town interests who are trying to stop the land deal. Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, are we like leading towards like a false theorize, or like are we like gonna theorize that the sheriff did it and pin it on him?
It's kind of how I'm feeling, but
intriguing. Good. Well, okay, so Ida, what are you up to?
Partly that depends. So she comes out of this dream. Is she actually holding anything that she's taken a bite of?
No.
Okay. So like her hands are sort of up by her face, and she puts them back down. Is this dream a pretty strong memory, or is it already sort of starting to fade
it'll
away?
start to fade. Yeah, it'll start to fade pretty quickly.
So I think she looks over to Esther. I don't know what's going on tonight. Maybe I've had too much champagne or too much trauma. Either way, where are we at in this caper? Are we ready to call it?
I mean, I know I didn't kill Mrs. White, for example.
I know you didn't.
Sheriff's best intention to pin it on me. Maybe we could theorize.
Well, let's grab the other girls and see where we're at. I think I saw Laura come in.
Oh, interesting.
Well, so the lemon's hanging out with the pumpkin, I think. And so you all can meet up. I assume out of earshot of the other guests at this point. Maybe June will be there.
I would invite June.
Yeah, I'd say June will be there. Yeah, June in her poodle skirt. She'll say, "Well, this is very exciting. Have you all come up with any thoughts on what you think happened here? Also, does this make me an official murder maven?"
Provisional.
I mean, you have 5 clues and then maybe a floating clue or 2. So what do you think? Are you ready to do this, or?
I kind of love the idea that if we're going to do this, we do it and we try to pin it on the sheriff when there's more of a risk that it will go wrong too. I just like that as a mechanic. I feel like that could be fun if we do fail to pin it on the sheriff. So
It would definitely lead to an interesting turn in the story, I think.
Yeah, I feel like if we get more clues, it's going to be less likely to be the sheriff. So, like, if we want to do it, we should do it.
Well, you still have to make a theory that you have to explain to someone. So, where do we want to start? Yeah, got 5 clues here.
For once, I think I actually have a starting idea for this. Which would be that I think the pair of freshly muddy boots that was found in Coco and Abner's wardrobe, I think those are Sheriff Dalrymple's. I think he was already here before, and after doing the deed, I think it was there on the terrace, right? So I think he had been, around the grounds. His boots had gotten quite dirty, but in order to show up at the scene of the crime, like clean later, I think after committing the murders, he stashed them and then switched shoes outside, came back in.
That's a good start. You're at -5. Who has any other thoughts here?
All right, so I feel like if he needed to get into like somebody's phone, maybe that's where the finger comes in, right? He took somebody's finger off to try to get into their phone for some reason.
So who do we want to propose the finger belongs to? Like, do we notice later that Mrs. White or Abner are missing their finger?
And probably Abner, right? Because I don't know what secrets Mrs. White's phone would have, really. But
okay, interesting. Well, what would he? Well, okay, we'll put a check for now, or at least we'll just say like, okay, an interesting thought. What about the other clues? And see if they can tie things together here.
So I think that I actually think the sheriff didn't do it, and we're just gonna pin it on the sheriff.
Right, yeah, that's true. So you just have to come up with something plausible sounding.
Yeah. And so I kind of like the idea, actually, that he maybe is kind of in on this rejecting the waterfront thing. He's kind of old school. Maybe he doesn't like tourists and people who aren't really from Brindlewood Bay, and we might be able to find like a way in there. I've already planted the pills on him, so that is covered. And then we have Sam backing us up to be like, oh yeah, this guy doesn't want us to build the waterfront, so that could explain the rejected permit. And then I don't know, maybe yeah, we just find a way to make the other clues stick, because I really think he didn't do it, and we're just throwing him under the bus here.
Yeah, exactly. What I want to know is, in the fiction, I imagine Esther and maybe Ida are sort of leading this discussion. Like, are Laura and Ruth also trying to pin it on the sheriff, or are you just kind of going along with Esther's theory here?
Like, I think Ruth is, you know, she loves putting together clues. So I think if somebody like starts her down this path, like she will happily try to, you know, make the rest of it fit as best as she can.
Our human nature to find patterns will kick
Exactly,
in.
yeah. And I mean, there's no love lost between Ruth and the sheriff. So
True.
like,
yeah. Interesting. So, okay. So I think we've definitely got like 2 solid clues here. The Brittany Award can be as simple as just being the murder weapon. Maybe, you know, maybe.
Well, I think we have evidence that he had access to Coco and Abner's room. If the boots are his, there in the wardrobe.
Oh, a good point. Yeah.
So he could have taken that from there to commit the murder.
I like that. And then what about the pill bottles?
Well, I put them on his person, so I feel like that does describe
yeah.
that. They're irrelevant because they're in his pocket.
Yeah. So maybe he drugged Abner in order to like make him easier to subdue or something like that. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay.
You can also go for a thing where we try to do like he's trying to pin it on someone else. Maybe he put the finger there. You know, he's got the pill bottles because he was trying to pin it on someone else is another angle we could go with it.
Yeah, I think regardless, I think the fact that you put the pills on him like sort of brings that, it ties that in as far as like the sort of framing him situation goes. So the finger, I guess, the thing we just have to explain is what was he trying to get access to that he needed access to Abner's phone?
I mean, it could be as easily as something as easy as like he was just trying to get money off of Abner, right? Because Abner's pretty wealthy, and I have a paper with a sequence of numbers on it that could easily be like a bank account number or something that he got off the phone.
Oh, that's really good.
And also online banking, like just, you know, if you have the finger, maybe you could just do transfer from the phone or something.
Oh, and so the sequence of numbers is maybe that's the sheriff's bank account. Possibly.
Yeah, so that's what he was wiring the money to.
Yeah,
right?
okay, good. So we're going to add in the sequence of numbers and say that was the sheriff's bank account.
So he basically wired a big sum from Abner's account.
Now here's the thing, though.
I mean,
if you're trying to frame him, though, this had to happen, right? So, like,
well, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he is on the take, right? So we already said maybe he's like involved in this rejecting the building permit. So maybe on the side he was like, okay, I'll push through your waterfront permit if you pay me.
Oh, interesting. So, okay, that's intriguing. I'm liking that.
So are we proposing then that there was like a real layer of corruption here, but that he wasn't actually involved in the murder? Oh, I like that a lot.
That's pretty good. I think that's a cleaner like accusation too, because it kind of connects the two of them. I'm liking it. We'll recap in a minute, but you're at a flat roll right now. So unless we get another floating clue in from Dan.
Yeah, anybody got thoughts on a sailor's love letter as related to this waterfront development, maybe?
That may have to wait for the void mystery.
I mean, I'm fine to say that we just roll it on the flat roll, because again, we are taking a little bit of a risk anyway. So
let's recap. The sheriff obviously had access to their room because he ditched the boots there, and which means he was also able to get the murder weapons. So it just kind of shows he had access to the house. Also, because he was apparently involved in some actual corruption with Abner, so that might explain his access to their stuff as well. The pill bottles, basically you have planted a pill bottle on the sheriff to show how the sheriff intended to subdue Abner. And obviously those drugs will probably show up in Abner's system because he's probably taking them, right? The real human finger in the cobwebs, turns out the finger is Abner's finger. We don't know how it ended up there, but you're saying that basically the sheriff used it to get money from Abner's bank account post-death. And the sequence of numbers actually is Dalrymple's bank account. So that's another big like clue there. Intriguing. I love it. It's a wild accusation. Are you going to make the accusation, like, are you going to get Brett over there or something to like?
Yeah, we are 100% calling Deputy Brett to come take him away.
Right. So Deputy Brett and Percy Underwood show up in a couple's Halloween costume. What is it?
Can they also be a
Superman and Robin?
keeper?
Batman and Robin, I mean.
Say it again. Alicia, what did you say?
Batman and Robin.
Yeah, I got that. What were you saying, Alicia?
Oh, I like the idea
Sorry.
that they came as a bee and a beekeeper as well. And I
kind of like Batman and Robin just because of like, that's like a total like gay code word thing. Good. Yeah. Let's say Batman and Robin. So Percy and Brett are there. Brett is like, Aunt Ruth, what's going on? What's this all about?
Look, this is gonna sound crazy, but hear me out.
Let's have the die roll.
Take some more champagne.
Go ahead and roll it, Dan.
That's a 10.
10. All right. All right. It works. So I'll take the narration here. Basically, you lay out your theory as you've described it to me, and the sheriff is like, the sheriff is basically like, what? He's so like upset or whatever, and he's like, this is ridiculous. But then the bottle of pills falls out of his coat, and Brett is like, Sheriff, what's this? And then and so whether whether this charge sticks or not, we may or may not find out. But in any case, Brett like says, well, Sheriff, I have to place you under arrest. And he takes out a pair of bat cuffs and like puts the bat cuffs on Sheriff Dalrymple. And Sheriff Dalrymple's like, these aren't real handcuffs. And Brett's like, it's okay, let's just go with it. And then and he and Percy are like leading Sheriff Dalrymple out to the cop car. And
as the sheriff leaves, I would like to make eye contact with him very knowingly, and then I would like to give him the finger.
That's a great way to end the mystery, I think, with you just like flipping off the sheriff. Good. Anything else anybody wants to add before we wrap up All Hallows?
I mean, I do like how we're just letting the actual murderer get away with it.
Yeah, that is an interesting thing. Someone's like, whoo.
Yeah, Ruth is totally convinced that it was the sheriff, but out of fiction, we definitely are just letting the murderer get away with it.
Indeed.
I definitely want to have like a moment. We don't have to like role play it, but later I just imagine like Ida and Esther being like, so who do you really think it was? Like away from the other two.
Oh, it was Miss White, murder suicide.
Awesome. Well, let's take I'll need some time to get a little bit of time to get the next mystery ready. So let's take like a 10-minute break and we'll come back and start the next thing. It is sweeps week. The networks are pulling out all the stops in order to get those viewers, and they have a stunt planned that is going to piss off so many people, and they don't care because it's about getting people talking. And so when people sit down to watch TV, they think they're watching an episode of a very popular supernatural TV show about a pair of FBI detectives, a pair of extremely attractive FBI detectives who investigate ghosts and aliens and other supernatural business, always in the seeming Pacific Northwest, except it's always in Canada. And so everyone's just like, oh, okay, this is just a normal episode of that show. Except about 5 minutes in, as the characters are in their rent-a-car going to the site of their next investigation, they lose control of the car, wrap it around the tree. The two lead characters are dead. This is the network ending that show. And then the Brindlewood Bay theme music starts, and we see our murder mavens in their cozy vignettes. Everybody please narrate your maven enjoying her life in Brindlewood Bay. And of course, don't forget Shadow in the Garden. Whoever wants to go first, take it away.
Okay, so I think that you see Esther Katu alone in a Brindlewood Bay pottery shop, where, inspired by her little outing with Ida and their burgeoning romance, she has decided to attempt pottery on her own. And so she's there and she's not very good at it, and the wheel is spinning, and it starts spinning like faster and faster and faster until her piece suddenly explodes into like chunks of like wet clay flying everywhere. And in the sort of like stain on the center of the pottery wheel is a kind of outline that looks like the occluded king.
Nice.
I think for Ida's vignette, it finds her at the local public library. She's seated in like one of the comfier chairs at the end of a row of books. There for different customers to come in and have a seat and check out something before they decide to rent it from the library. And she has like on the little table next to her, you can see that there's volume 1, volume 2. She's on the 3rd volume of like famous cold cases, an anthology series. And she's like, flipping through. She's halfway through this 3rd volume. She's probably been sitting here for some time, just reading these here in the library. And she has like the faint smile on her face, and she's like, "Oh, that one's simple." And she like turns to the next page and moves on to the next one, and is just sort of keeping herself sharp with it. And the camera like pans around to where she's looking at an account of some serial killer, and the people who were murdered. The list is dozens of names long, and all of them are some version of Ida something. Ida Williams, Ida, Clark, Ida McKittrick, just all these different Idas. And she just sort of looks at that page and stops for a moment and then just flips to the next one and moves on.
Thank you. Adrian or Dan?
So I think we see Laura having breakfast again at her breakfast place, but this time with her sister, Tracy. And she says something like, "So again, you told me to show up at this theater party in Boston in this Halloween costume, and then only a little bit later you went to an actual Halloween party and you did not invite me. This is exactly how I expected this to go, that we meet each other again after that sort of time." And Laura is like apologetic. "Yes, I know, but and Trace says, next time don't call me out of the blue like this. And by the way, remember when you were traveling and you gave your address to so many people when they were sending, so they sent letters to me all the time still. Here, there are some of them." And she puts them on the table and she leaves. Laura goes through them, and some of them are from like people that she knows all over the world, and she looks at the stamps. And then there's one that has these symbols that we know from the beginning all over it. And The sender's name is Koufax.
Nice.
Okay, so we see Ruth, and I think Ruth and Richard are walking through the park together, and she's like, "Oh, I need to introduce you to some of my friends," and and they get to the clearing, and like all the ravens are in the trees all around, and she she gives them some like sparkly things and some seed, and they come down, and Richard's like, "Oh, that's really cool," and then they briefly have a very chaste kiss, and as soon as they do, like all the birds, their heads all swivel toward Richard, and they just start screaming.
Good. Our mystery is called the Hex Files. Hex Files. And it starts, well, first of all, there's a special rule here. A few special rules. Sweeps week mysteries are a little different from regular mysteries in that there's not usually a murder you're trying to solve. You're trying to figure out something, but it's not always a murder. And it has a much more heavy emphasis on the supernatural. It's much more overt. The fragrance, the Midwives of the Fragrant Void, and indeed the entire Void mystery has nothing to do with this. This is completely separate from it. So separate, in fact, that you don't have access to your Crown of the Void. You cannot mark it during this time, unless you do the Occult Move. That's the only instance that would cause it to happen. But anything else where you would mark the Crown of the Void doesn't happen, and you can't mark the Crown of the Void for purposes of getting a better die result. However, we have access to a new crown. It's just for this mystery, so go ahead and use it. There's no reason not to. It's called the Crown of the Woods. It's a shared crown. It has 3 marks. They're secret. I won't tell you what they are. You have to just choose to mark it, and then I'll tell you what happens. But they're only good for this mystery, the Crown of the Woods. So use it as you wish. And with all that said, the 4 of you are on a road trip. You are heading to a convention. The convention is in Mesa, Arizona. You are driving through the American Southwest, but because this is a smash-up episode with the Hex Files, the environment always looks like Vancouver. And so there are tall trees, and it's wet and lots of forest, and we don't explain why that's the case. And so you are driving along this stretch of New Mexico that is out in the middle of nowhere, and there are huge, massive trees and deer and stuff. And you are driving along the road, and you come upon first of all, you see what appears to be a series of X's spray painted orange on the road. Don't know what that's all about. But eventually, those orange X's lead to skid marks on the road. And you see that there is a car that has gone off the road. You all stop because that's what you would do, because you're very kind people. There's a lot of broken glass and debris in any case, and you don't want to drive over that. And maybe somebody in the accident needs help. As a paint the scene question for everyone, what suggests that unnatural forces were involved in this car crash?
Go ahead.
I think on the side of the vehicle, there is like the imprint, maybe 2 or 3 times as large, but it's clearly the imprint of a hand.
Nice.
I think there's the trees at the side of the road are burned as if there was a big explosion, like as if the car had exploded, but the car is obviously still there.
The radio in the car is still playing, even though the rest of the electronics are all dead.
Hmm.
Disappearing into the trees is an unnaturally colored mist, like a black kind of mist.
Very good. Ruth, you can kind of see there are people in the car, slumped over the dashboard, the tree, and there's a bunch of debris all over the place. What do you do?
Well, I mean, let's go up and see if these people are dead or not.
You see a pair of incredibly attractive people who are wearing suits and quite obviously dead. Something about the blood trickling down their face and the windshield glass piercing their skin makes them even more beautiful. It's more sort of tragic beauty, right? You can see an FBI badge in the kind of like, on the floorboard. These are FBI agents. They each are carrying a piece as well. And you see a folder that one of them must have just been reading. And it's also it's in one of the victims' hands. What do you do?
I mean, ordinarily I'd go through their pockets, but if this folder is right here, I'll just go for that first.
The folder is a case file, and the case file details a number of travelers who have gone missing over the past decade. And in all cases, the traveler's last known location is the town of Devilwood. Here is a question for Esther. What dark legend surrounds the town of Devilwood?
Oh, hold on, I have to check. Do we have like arm against children on our safety thing?
I don't know. Let me look. No.
No. All right, then I definitely think we have like a history of mysterious children's deaths that show up, and the rumor is that the town sacrifices the children for some reason.
So we have these missing travelers and rumors of child sacrifice. Okay, interesting. Good. As you're all sort of putting this together, Ruth, as you're going through the case file, Ida, you'll look up and see the big green directional sign. Actually, no, what color are the direction signs in Canada, Alicia?
They're green.
Oh, they're green. Okay. You see the big green direction sign that says, just one town, Devilwood, 3 miles away.
Does the car appear to be going to or coming from there?
Going to. And so you all now. Oh, sorry.
I know that if it was in Canada, it wouldn't say 3 miles away.
Oh yeah, I know. It wouldn't hear either, but this sign does. So the TV viewing audience knows exactly what's happening here. Very good. So solving this.
Quick question. Yeah. Could Ida snag one of those FBI badges?
Of course. Very good. And so solving this mystery means discovering what's been happening to the missing travelers over the past decade and putting a stop to it. That is what is happening. You are very close to Devilwood. You are going to do the work of these unnamed, incredibly attractive FBI agents, and that is what's happening. And so we'll just fast forward to the town of Devilwood, a town out in the middle of nowhere in New Mexico, surrounded by enormous trees and mountains. and a heavy mist. As the car pulls in, you see a large raven perched on a sign, a decorative sign of Devilwood, and the raven eyes you with its beady black eyes as your car pulls in. A question about the convention you were going to, because I want to establish that. What was the convention in Mesa? It has to be related to one of your cozy activities, whoever wants to say.
Maybe bird watching. We finally were convinced to all attend like a bird watching convention.
A bird watching convention in the middle of the desert would really be something.
Yeah, I was definitely leaning more toward pottery myself.
Yeah, that makes sense for Mesa. I like just bird watching. Yeah. Good. I love it. So you're in Devilwood. And there's not much in Devilwood, if I'm being honest. For our purposes, you'll see a diner called Elsie's Diner. On the way in, you went past an old abandoned sawmill. Nearby the diner, there's a guest house, the Devilwood Guest House. And there's the woods, of course. And sort of above the town, nestled in the trees, is a huge mansion that sort of overlooks everything. And I think we're just gonna open with you all kind of pulling the car in, like it's one of those like kind of old Main Street type situations where you have to back out into traffic, you pull up in front of the business. We'll say you pull up near the diner and the guest house, and you're all getting out of the car. Let's just have that scene. Role play.
It's a lot wetter here than I expected the desert to be.
Well, it's the wet season.
We love the writers making fun of the production costs and the production limitations in the script.
This is when all the best birds come through now, so that's why they have the convention now.
Well, I was wondering what sort of podcast episode you would make about the bird watching convention, but now there's Devilwood. What do you think? That's gonna be interesting, right?
Oh yeah, this is easily, I think we definitely found season 6 right here. So one of these days, I'm actually going to make an episode about birds, but it hasn't happened yet.
Well, Ruth, I saw a beautiful raven on the way into here. I mean, maybe that could factor into the mystery. You kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
Maybe, I don't know.
In fact, you'll see the raven has flown over and is perched on the windowsill of the guest house and is watching you even now.
Is that a local bird?
Yeah, you can normally find ravens around here, I think. That one looks especially, I don't know, just a bit bedraggled maybe, but yeah.
What's the difference between a raven and a crow?
See, a raven is larger and has a thicker beak, whereas a crow is smaller and has a thinner beak. Now, if you want to talk about the difference between a common crow and a fish crow, I mean, that'll take 10 minutes probably.
It's like, I'm going in and getting us some rooms, okay? While you continue this lecture, Ruth.
Sounds great. So you see, you can't really tell the difference between an American crow and a fish crow by sight. It all comes down to their song.
Very good. I love it. Laura, you're going into the guest house?
Yes.
Paint the scene for everyone. Actually, no, this is just for Laura. I take that back. This was once a grand home that has now been converted into a guest house. The walls are covered in dark wood paneling, which the light from the single bulb in the entryway barely illuminates. What shocking scene is depicted in the carved paneling?
I think it's like a let me see, like a colonial scene, like an old Spanish colonial scene of conquistadors riding into town, subduing the population, something like this.
Conquistadors doing atrocities. Good. Which would have happened most likely in New Mexico. There probably weren't as many trees around when said atrocities were happening. Good. What are the rest of you doing while Laura goes in to get a room?
Well, I think one of us should probably tell the police that there's dead people on the highway 3 miles from town.
You'll see across the way what looks to be like a sheriff's vehicle for the county.
All right, yeah, we should just flag that guy down.
He'll come over. He says, good afternoon, ladies. I'm Jack Wolf, local sheriff. He has a kind of an athletic build, quite a heavily scarred face, actually. And, he says, and he also has 2 large dogs with him. How is Beau reacting to the 2 dogs, Esther? They seem the dogs seem unfriendly, but
Beau, much like the murder mavens in general, I feel like don't care that the dogs are unfriendly. Beau just wants to make friends with everyone.
And so Jack Wolf, he sort of comes up to you and he says, we don't get many people through here in Devilwood, it being as remote as it is. What brings you ladies through here?
Bird watching convention.
Well, so that's really interesting. What can I do for you? You hailed me over.
Oh yeah, well, when we were coming into town, we saw this accident. We passed by this accident, and I don't think that there's some people in there, and I don't think they made it.
He's like, all right, and he'll ask you like approximately where was it, and then he'll get on his little walkie-talkie and he'll call it in or whatever, and he says, all right, thanks. We're gonna take a look at that.
I took some pictures of the crime scene if you'd like to see. Bring them up on my phone.
Like, did you tamper with the scene? I mean, it wasn't really a crime necessarily, but
right, sure. Yeah. No, of course not.
It's like,
I mean, we're basically professionals.
I see. Professional bird watchers.
Oh no, that's just a hobby. We're really professional murder solvers.
He says, okay. Well, a fair warning to you ladies. The people in this town don't really like outsiders. And, well, let's just say you don't want to go overturning rocks that shouldn't be overturned. You never know what's going to crawl out from underneath them.
Well, I mean, I'm sure it can't be that bad. And I'm sure once they get to know us, they'll like us just fine.
And he tips his hat to you and goes back to his car. Ida, what are you up to?
I think Ida wants to go and sorry, I had a cat. I think Ida wants to go and take a closer look at the Raven. I think having seen it, upon entering, and I don't know, I think she's curious. She is ostensibly here for part of the bird watching convention, and this place seems spooky. So she's gonna go over and she's gonna have some bird seed out, and she's gonna try to bring the Raven down.
Yeah, I like it. The Raven comes down, no problem. Very glossy black plumage, sharp-looking beak. It's a particularly large example of its species. Ruth might be interested in that. It's a quite large raven. And it seems to be like assessing you, Ida. What do you do?
So I think Ida remembers a particular scene from one of the Amanda Delacourt novels where Amanda Delacourt, because some ravens are capable of speech, especially if they've been trained for it. And I think that in a particular book, we can come up with a title here in a second if we're interested in doing this. But I think that there's a scene where she, in the course of solving a mystery, she talks with a raven who like saw everything happen or was involved in some way, and by offering it treats and stuff, she managed to secure an important clue from it.
Okay, I like that. Are we gonna do Gold Crown Mysteries here? I think Gold Crown Mysteries would be a great thing to do here. Collectively, you have to come up with the name of the book in question, and then we'll just and then you get a 12+ on the roll. So
I've been trying to think of a good bird pun.
yeah, no, come on here. Don't let me down.
The Corvid Calamity.
The Corvid Calamity. Very good. If everyone agrees. And so you can now state something is true about this situation, or you can just take a 12+ on your next roll. Which do you want?
I think, well, so that depends. And this is more a question for the table. I'm sort of also interested in maybe establishing a occult move wherein we could speak with birds who are aligned with darker forces. And if that's the case, then I'd like to use a 12+ on the occult.
Okay, yeah, I think that's great. Yeah, so that is another move. It's another move we have to kind of get going in there, but that's okay. It works.
Yeah, I definitely, for however we establish the move at the end, I like the idea that you have to offer them something as a trade.
Okay, nice. That's good. Give us a scene then. What's this look like?
So I think Ida, after offering some seed, sort of getting the raven to come down, the raven hops down on the ground, very like far closer to her than a bird with a strong sense of self-preservation, and or some fear of humans might. It's just there in front of her, as you described. It's sort of craning, looking at her inquisitively, and I think Ida notices that what's caught its eye is like the shine of that FBI badge that she stole from the crime scene earlier, and she sort of looks down. Oh, this you well, I suppose I don't have any use for it. I just thought it would make for a nice souvenir while I was down here. Here. And she tosses it to the raven, who like catches it in its beak and somehow like buries it in its feathers. And then I think the raven speaks to her.
The raven definitely sounds like David Duchovny. Let's just throw that out there. 100%. And the raven says to you, just you, I have seen many things here in this town. Things that defy logic.
Oh, well, tell me, what have you seen?
And it flies off in a particular direction.
And she will probably holler over her shoulder, I'm following the bird. Anyone wants to join? As she heads off, as the raven flies, following after it.
Esther, what are you doing?
Well, where Ida goes, it's yelling. Esther will follow. So I guess Beau and I head off in that direction as well.
Ruth?
Yeah, so Ruth, I think, is following Esther, and she's like, so if you're in a place where fish crows and American crows coexist, then you definitely need to, as she continues her lecture.
Right.
I'm listening, like totally wrapped. Like Laura might be over it, but I'm like, oh yeah, totally.
Well, Laura, you're in the guest house, so you're going to come back out and they're all going to be gone.
It seems like Laura is on her own again.
Indeed. You're in the guest house, and let me get my list of characters here real quick. There is a woman at the front. She is definitely looking at you suspiciously, and she's wearing kind of a faded flower print house dress. And she has kind of rough, gnarled, calloused hands that she sort of like is, kind of like she's fidgeting a little bit, right? And she says, "Can I help you?"
Hello, yes. We're making a stop on the way to the convention in Mesa, and I think we would like to stay here if you have any rooms available.
You want to stay in Devilwood?
Well, it's getting late, right? And I mean, I heard there's some people that went missing over the last years, but they didn't stay here, did they?
Well, maybe they did, maybe they didn't.
Well, no, did they?
She says, "I've only got one room available at the moment."
Okay. Well, she looks behind her, and apparently there's no one else followed her inside. So, well, I guess I'll take it, and then I'll see whatever happened to my friends. How many beds are there in the room?
She says, "I can tell you've seen some dark things. I can see a cloud hanging over you, a dark cloud. I wonder when the time comes. Will that dark cloud drown us all in rain showers of hatred and guilt?"
Maybe I'll have to talk to my friends first before
She puts the key.
to...
She puts the key on the desk and says, "I lock the door at 9 p.m. sharp every night, so don't be staying out late. And I hope you're not going to be trouble like that last lot."
Okay. You really know how to welcome your guests here, I guess. Is everyone in Devilwood so welcoming?
She says, "No, they're not nearly as friendly as me."
But now, seriously, did any one of the people who went missing stay here at your establishment?
9 p.m., she says, as she turns away, goes back to the back office.
Is there some kind of guest book or anything that Laura could take a look at?
Yeah, it's a classic murder maven move. You could do the meddling move. Go for it. With, I think, composure.
Yes.
I might tap into your frightened condition, though, and make you roll a disadvantage.
Okay. Let me roll another one. I rolled 3/4, so that's still a 9.
Yep. We'll come back to that. So, Ida, you are following this raven, and it kind of takes you to the tree line of the woods. And here, I think you kind of find yourselves, like, at a certain point, you're just traipsing around the woods at this point. There are many ancient trees around Devilwood, New Mexico. And in places The forest canopy is so dense that only a small amount of light filters through to the ground. And there's a trail through the woods, but it's so overgrown that it's pretty easy to lose sight of. But fortunately, you have a guide in the Raven, the Devilwood Raven. Offerings are left along the path to the Raven or something else, who knows? But each of you should name an offering that's been left.
The most recent DVD box set of the Hex Files on a little plinth.
I think there's some small bones. Kind of can't really tell what they're from, but some kind of small creature.
A little pile of like rings and stuff that are like child-sized.
Adrian, Laura's not there, but you can name an offering if you want.
I think there are kind of colorful pieces of cloth affixed to a tree.
The Raven eventually leads you to a clearing in the forest, and it then flies off to where you can't see it, into the canopy overhead. But this must be where I want you to look around. So, Ida, what do you do?
I think if this is clearly where the Raven was leading, then I think Ida will look for evidence of the things that the Raven has seen, as he said. She'll inspect this area and look for anything that's different or unusual here in the forest.
Make the meddling move with reason.
Okay. My reason has been slowly dropping this game. That's a 7 + 1. That is an 8.
And Ruth, what are you doing?
So that's how you can tell those crows. But there's another species that lives in Mexico. And unless you happen to be at a garbage dump in Brownsville during the winter, you're not going to see that crow. But they do come there. And so I don't know.
Should never go to Brownsville for any reason, and especially not a garbage dump in Brownsville. Good. Well, Esther, what are you doing?
So I feel like, yes, you know, the writer's making fun of themselves, but I feel like Esther thinks this is very strange climate, environment, whatever, for where we're supposed to be heading. And so I feel like I want to lean into that somehow and like look at the trees, or like I've got my farmer's almanac maybe, trying to like, and my field notes, trying to figure out like what is going on here, because it doesn't make any sense that we're supposed to be going to a desert and we appear to be in the Pacific Northwest.
Do a meddling move with reason.
Okay.
Although, as you've described it, it's almost like sensitivity in a way, because it's like you're leaning in. You're kind of peering behind the veil of like.
I would like sensitivity.
Do sensitivity. Yeah,
like,
that's fine. Yeah, do sensitivity.
And I'm going to mark my farmer's almanac, I think,
okay,
for
cool.
my
Yeah.
for advantage.
Go for it.
Okay, +2, 10.
Very good. Fantastic. There's no 12+ on this move, by the way, because the midwives are not a thing, so you can't get a 12+. You can, but it doesn't do anything in Sweep Sigma Stream. Okay, good. We'll get some clues sorted out here. So let me swing back over to Laura. you were thumbing through the guest book, which is always a good move, I feel like. And you turn to one of the pages in the guest book, and especially given your like recent sort of inquiries into the occult and the supernatural, you'll notice that one of the guest book pages has had a spell inscribed on it with what appears to be blood. That's your clue.
I think when Laura sees that, like she gets to this page and she realizes that maybe some of these symbols, again, are kind of familiar from some occult thing. I think she quickly closes it and gets out of there.
How does it make you feel?
I think she's really frightened because she thought that maybe this woman was just putting on an act, but now there seems to be something really occult going on, and she just was happy that she was getting out of Brindlewood Bay and all of that things.
You're turning to leave, and you practically run into Sheriff Jack Wolf. He's standing in the doorway, and he says, "You look like you've seen something startling, ma'am."
No. Well, it's well, the woman who owns the guest house here, she's not very welcoming. She said some weird things about me, and yes, you're actually right. It was a little bit startling or frightening.
He says,
I think,
I
think it's just my empty stomach.
You have nothing to worry about. Millicent is not exactly what you call an ideal welcoming committee, but she's totally harmless. I can't say that's the case for the rest of Devilwood. And in fact, you and your friends should probably make haste from here as soon as you can.
Well, it is getting late. Is there a place where I could get something to eat around here?
Elsie's Diner is right next door. I'll tell you what, I'll take you over there. Lunch is on me.
I would like that.
And he escorts you literally one door over to Elsie's Diner. Let's talk about Elsie's Diner. Elsie's Diner seems to be doing pretty good business, although as soon as you step inside, Laura, the hum of conversation comes to an immediate halt. The tabletops are chipped, and the vinyl seat covers have split with age. And as you unfold the large menu with many, many pages, what do you see on the menu that looks particularly unappetizing, Laura?
I think it's just a kind of local, like a joke, but on the menu there's an item that is roasted raven, and Laura sees it. It's probably not really roasted raven. It's just something that they call some way of doing something else, or
It's like chicken another, or something.
Yeah. But that's what they call it here.
And the sheriff, he kind of sets his menu down. There's like a menu once you walk in, he sets it down. He says, he calls over to Elsie. He says, "Elsie, I'll just have the usual." And he goes and sits down in his booth and invites you over, Laura.
I think Laura goes over there, sits with him, and says, "So, what is your usual here?"
Oh.
I'm quite hungry now. I feel.
Just coffee, black.
So nothing to eat?
Not right now. I'm feeling a little.
Okay,
I try not to eat too much on the job.
I think Laura calls over, says something like, I think I'll have a salad with some eggs.
And we'll cut back over to the forest scene, but let's take a 5-minute break. So back in the woods, remind me of the die rolls. I know one was a 10. What was the other one?
I'd had an 8.
Let's talk about the 10 first. Esther, you have gardening experience, right? Didn't you say your deceased husband was a gardener? You find a plant growing in abundance in this spot. It's that well-known desert plant, deadly nightshade, growing. There's a bush of it there. That's one of your clues. I'll note that here.
I really don't think we're in the desert, ladies.
Ida, your clue is a little more unusual, say. You start to hear your heart beating in your ears again. Bum, 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 bum. And that sound is drawing you to a particular place in the clearing. What do you do?
I think she'll follow it. She'll take a few steps forward. She'll sort of like if you've got a metal detector and you're following the beeps.
You follow it to a particular tree that has a, what do we call that? Like when a tree has a hole in it, like a, does that have a name? But anyway, there's like a hole in the tree. And you can see the sort of like dark space inside the tree. And you can hear the bump, 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 bump. What do you do?
I think the vague memory of finding a heart in a tree from that strange dream she had somewhat recently, and again, as we said, it sort of has faded away, but I think this being so reminiscent brings that ever so close to the edge of her mind, and I think she is going to reach up into the hole in the tree to see what lies within.
You reach your hand inside the tree and you feel something cold, like glass, a glass jar perhaps. What do you do?
She'll pull it out.
You pull it out, and inside there is a heart, a human heart. It beats twice, bump, 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 and then stops. I'm going to give you a complication based or a condition based off this. It's going to be, how do you feel, I guess?
I think Ida feels Ida is pretty surprised that any of that just like worked, I guess. That is so close to the vague memory she has. So I think she's just really shocked.
I'm going to give you a condition called Heartwood. You can do what you want with that. Ruth, what are you doing right now? Everyone's a little distracted at this point.
Right, yeah. So now that my audience is gone, I mean, we're here to do some birding, so I'm just gonna, walk around and see if I can spot any birds.
Yeah, you will see the you'll see the Devilwood Raven after a time. The Devilwood Raven has just swallowed something. It's wriggling down its beak. You can even see the whatever the insect or whatever it was, kind of like moving down its throat. The plumage physically moves as it swallows. What do you do?
I don't know. Might just like take a closer look at this thing, see what's going on with it. I have birdseed in my pockets at all times, canonically.
Yes.
So I am going to use my pocket birdseed and just have it try to bond with this raven.
Yeah. I guess you can do the move to get it to talk if you want.
I don't even know that I want it to talk. I just want it to be friends.
Okay, that's no problem. It's there. It's eating the bird seed. It's a big raven. I guess a regular raven is probably like the size of like, 2 footballs put together, right? This one's like 3, right? It's really big. So befriended, then what?
I mean, how friendly are we talking here?
Well, every time it goes in for some seed, it like nicks you on the hand, causing you to bleed a little bit. It's unclear if that's intentional or not.
Okay. Well, I'm happy to just like let it follow me around for the time being while I go look for other cool birds.
Yeah, it will stay heavy on your shoulder for a while as you're popping around looking for birds. And we'll come back to that moment. Let's go back to Laura. So Sheriff Jack Wolf says, your friend made it seem like you're a bit of a detective.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but I've been around, I traveled around a lot. So now after having had a cup of coffee, I don't feel as somehow something was irritating to me in this in the guest house, this woman. But now talking to you, you seem to be a regular fellow. Let me tell you, I've been to a lot of small places all over the world, and I know people are always, they don't really like people from the outside looking in and so on. But yes, my friend and I, my friends and I, we sort of seem to always be in the right place to help out when something's going on that people don't understand. So
his attention has drifted to what appears to be an empty booth. He's looking at this empty booth like quite like intensely, and he's beginning to frown. You can't tell at a glance what he's looking at, though.
Sheriff? And I think she's kind of straining to see what he's looking at.
Hold on just a second. And he gets up and he walks over to the empty booth. And he says to the empty booth, Walter Ephraim, I thought I told you I didn't want to see you around here anymore. Get up and get gone. No one seems to be reacting strangely to the fact that the sheriff is apparently talking to no one in the booth. But what are you doing?
I think Laura is she doesn't seem to see so she's kind of straining to see if there's someone lying on somewhere in the booth or under the table or something.
No, you don't see anything.
I think so. Laura, I think then she will be looking around to see is there any are people even looking at this, or are they even noticing?
Yeah, some people are kind of like paying attention to it, I guess, because it's the sheriff kind of getting onto someone. The diner owner, Elsie, graying hair, kind of a stained apron, pencil behind her ear, classic. She's like, "Oh, Sheriff, he ain't doing anyone no harm. Just leave him be. I don't mind."
Did the sheriff, when he got up, did he leave anything here, like a bag or his badge or?
He has like
anything?
his little day planner there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I think if the sheriff seems like busy over there, I think Laura will like to take a peek in there.
Yeah, do a meddling move with composure. At disadvantage, though.
That's a 5.
Here might be a good time to remind you about the Crown of the Woods as well.
Yeah, let's take that. The Crown of the Woods.
Crown of the Woods. Each Maven has to describe a disturbing dream they had the night before. You can describe it. We'll do it as a sort of a last thing in the session, but be thinking about it until then. But you get a clue, and we'll come back to that clue in a moment. So Ida and Esther, Ruth has wandered off, leaving the two of you there in the woods with a heart in a jar and a bunch of nightshade. What do you do?
I think that I will invite Ida to exit the woods with me. It's creepy. Things are weird. Maybe we should go for a stroll through town and see what else we see. Also, Ruth's with the birds. They're, she's gone for hours.
I think Esther is asking this question to Ida's back as she slowly turns around with a jar with a heart inside. Maybe, but what do I do with this? It was beating moments ago.
It couldn't have been beating.
I'm no doctor, but it did appear to be beating moments ago.
Should we tell someone? I mean, someone put it here. What if we tell the wrong person?
Who do you tell this sort of thing?
I don't know.
And can I tell you something, Esther? As soon as I pulled it out of the tree, the first thing I thought was taking a bite out of it. Why would I think that?
Ida, I like you a whole lot, but that's disgusting.
It is. It is disgusting.
Maybe you should put it down.
That seems like a sensible thing to do.
And then we'll figure out what to do, but let's just put it down. But don't put it over there because that plant will murder you.
Well, isn't that a fairly safe place to dispose of it then?
Well, I don't. Okay, that's true. Yes.
And Ida will take the jar with the heart of it and just chuck it into the nightshade.
Very good. Ruth, you're wandering around looking for birds for a time. When you come upon that mansion up on the hill that I described earlier, that's sort of overlooking town, it is probably the oldest building in the area, based off the look of it. But things have been added to it over the years. And in fact, the additions are create a sort of eccentric collection of architectural styles. There's also a bit of a high wall around the property. What else, apart from the wall, makes you think that guests are not welcome here, Ruth?
All of the no trespassing signs. I think it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, good. I love it. The Devilwood Raven flies off your shoulder and goes over the wall and settles in a bird bath in the front garden and chases away the birds that were in the bird bath and just like plops itself in the middle of the water. What do you do?
I think I've got my binoculars and I'm like watching the bird, and I'll just kind of scan the rest of the house and see what's going on. I'm not too proud to look in a window.
Take the meddling move with reason.
That is a 7.
7. I'll go ahead and give you your clue now. You are scanning around. Looking at things in the windows where the curtains, most of the curtains are open. So you sort of like, you scan around and you see what appears to be like a trophy room of some sort, some kind of sitting room. Kind of keep scanning. You'll notice like a dining room with a hutch, curio cabinet kind of situation. Some kind of storage, kind of going through. And then you find one room where there's a man sort of, his back turned. He's wearing a beautiful, immaculate suit. It is like a bright white, like seersucker type suit. And he has a cane. And then he turns, and you notice he has a big gray rat on his shoulder. And the rat crawls up to him with its little paws and seems to be whispering something into his ear. And that's when he looks up and makes contact with you, eye contact with you, look as you are peering through the binoculars. What are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling like I should duck into the nearest bush.
Indeed. I like it. Yeah, let's do this. It's still the day. Let's do a day move. What are you worried is going to happen if you fail?
I'm just worried he's going to see me.
Yeah. Do the day move with vitality.
4.
We'll come back to that. So let's find everybody in space and time. Esther and Ida are walking back to town. Laura is like, there's an invisible person that everyone seems to be aware of, but her. And Ruth is trying to dodge into some bushes. Let's pick up with Laura. You were looking through the day planner, Laura. Do you just grab it and are going to look at it later, or are you going through it right now?
I think she actually grabs it as quickly as she can, kind of slips it into her purse or something.
Okay, you can do that, no problem. And when you look up, there's a man walking past. He's wearing a tattered raincoat. He's slightly translucent, it seems. And he says, "It's all right, Elsie, don't worry about it. I'll go. I don't want to make the sheriff angry." And he is stumbling out of the diner. And he just like walks through the diner door and sits himself down on a bench outside. The sheriff comes back and says, "Sorry, I've been dealing with that drunk Walter Ephraim for as long as since I was a brand new deputy."
Well, it seems that you are busy with your job. I don't want to keep you too long. Thank you for your company, and I better go find my friends.
Says, well, what about your salad?
Well, yeah, you're right. I seem to be a bit beside myself. So he kind of slumps down back into the booth. So, but tell me anyway. Like I said before, I've really been around, but haven't been to this part of the country, and it's really different from what I expected. Have you lived here all your life?
All my life. And he
So
looks
what's
up.
up with these disappearances? Sorry.
He looks out the window and he'll say, oh, isn't that your friends? And you'll see Esther and Ida walking by. He says, oh, those disappearances, that's just silly rumors. You know, somebody says something on the World Wide Web and it just runs like crazy.
Yes. So you seem to be doing a quite mundane job here, throwing out drunks from the diner. Well, but there must be something interesting going on here.
Yeah, maybe. Esther and Ida, where are you two going? What are you doing?
I think Ida's following Esther at this point. She's still thinking about that heart in the jar. Actually, I think leaning on, so I picked up a condition from that, right? Heartwood. I think very Telltale Heart-esque. Now that she's sort of divorced herself from it and left it there in the woods, she just keeps thinking about it, and she sort of like feels like she can hear it just outside of the range of like anywhere she looks, anywhere she sees.
Yeah. Esther?
So I feel like I may be kind of half dragging Ida just a little bit, you know, that she's distracted by this creepy heart thing. But I'm like a dog with a bone and also a little half dog. So I'm going to find a newspaper. I am on a mission to find a newspaper to see what they are saying about the stuff that happens here. And I'm chattering away to Ida about like, oh yeah, you can learn so much about a town from their news coverage. I did so many small town pieces.
We'll say that there is a local paper. It's called the Devilwood. What am I going to call it?
Devilwood Daily.
Devilwood Daily is pretty good. I was thinking something with like the
Devilwood Woodpecker.
Something that indicates like it's like a tablet or a scroll or something like that. Like the Devilwood
Art.
Say that again.
The Devilwood Barge.
The Devilwood what again?
Let me see.
I think I just didn't quite understand what you said.
Yeah, I think the Devilwood Bark.
Bark. Oh,
Something
bark.
like that. Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Grimoire.
Oh, that's pretty good. The Devilwood Grimoire. Why would you call the newspaper that? But I'm into it. So you have the Devilwood Grimoire, and I think there's like a little building where they run it off, you know, like periodic, you know, like where they actually make it. They might even store archival, you know, back issues of it or whatever. Yeah. What do you do?
I mean, I was literally just looking just for like a current newspaper.
Oh, sure. Yeah. You'll see this. You'll see an old drunk sitting outside the diner, and he seems to have he's got the paper on him.
I am so taken aback by the name of this thing that I actually just like snatch it out of his hands, and I'm like, who would call a newspaper this?
He says, well, this town has a dark and troubling history.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. Does anyone else hear that? No?
Birds?
Maybe. Anyway, you said there was a dark and troubling history. What kind?
And here's where you notice that he's slightly translucent. And he says, you got to get out of this place while you can. If someone sees that you're talking to me, especially if the sheriff sees that you're talking to me, you're doomed.
Sir, pardon the forwardness of this question. Are you a ghost?
He says, don't be ridiculous. There's no such thing as ghosts. And he has a cup of coffee that just like runs down and splatters on the ground as he drinks it, right?
Okay, can I have this newspaper?
And he just like dozes off.
I guess that's a yes. And I just want to like thumb through it and see if there's anything about like the disappearances or anything.
Probably not in today's edition. No, I would say it's just like, I mean, like, unless somebody's just disappeared, they wouldn't be covered in the grimoire. But it's a good lead to follow up on, though. Ruth, you got a miss. You step into a snare trap.
All right.
It catches around your ankle and pulls you up, and you're hanging upside down. What do you do?
Now would be a really good time for my bird friend to help me out.
Yeah. The bird like flies up to you, and like you being prone and not able to do anything about it, goes for your pocket to eat the bird seed.
Oh, this is great. I thought we had something.
And you see the man, no rat in his shoulder though, but you see the man like coming out with his cane, his white suit and his white hat. And he says, my. Look, you never know what sorts of animals are going to get caught in the snare.
So, look, this is clearly an illegal trap, okay? This is unsafe. This is clearly, this breaks all sorts of laws and regulations. You need to let me down from here immediately.
He comes out the gate, comes around to where you're at. He says,
I could have been a child.
He says, don't be ridiculous. There are no children in Devilwood.
Wait, what now?
Never mind. So, what are you doing snooping around my property?
I'm walking through the woods to observe birds in their natural habitat.
You expected to find lots of birds in the desert?
It's a surprisingly lush desert.
My name is Luther Montero. I've lived here all my life. My family has lived here. We go back many generations.
So I don't want to stop you if you're about to monologue, but I could really stand to be cut down from this snare now.
He says, in time. He says, you mentioned the law, but all of the law in Devilwood responds to me. So, what do I have to fear of your law?
I mean, the feds, state fish and wildlife.
He says, well, I had heard a rumor, since you mentioned feds, that there were some FBI agents who were coming into town to investigate some strange disappearances in Devilwood, but they never showed up.
Well, I'm not an FBI agent, so I don't know why you would be bringing that up with me.
I will cut you down, though. And his cane has a sword in it. Pulls it out. And he slices the rope, and you go tumbling down. He says, "You've fallen. Can you get up?"
Very clever, yes. I can get it.
And he puts the sword cane back and says, "Well, now that you're here, you should join me for a little bit of an afternoon repast."
Sure. Maybe you could give me a towel or something to brush some of this mud off of my clothing.
We'll take care of you inside. Come on.
All right, yeah, I'll follow him in. This seems reasonable.
Indeed, it does. Laura, where did we leave you?
Talking to the sheriff, eating my salad.
He says, "I see your friends over there chatting with Walter. It's not good."
What is it about this person? You seem
Oh,
to have a lot of trouble with him.
he just gets drunk, and when he gets drunk, he gets blab in his mouth and saying things he shouldn't say.
Like secrets?
You could say that. That's one thing we have in abundance in Devilwood. It's secrets. Practically commodity here.
So, but what important secrets could a drunk guy like this one be knowing about?
He gets up, says, "I'll square away the check next time I'm here, Elsie." And he says, "Ma'am, thank you for letting me square you out to lunch." And
Thank you for your company.
he walks to leave. Enjoy the rest of your salad. He doesn't realize you have his day planner yet. So what do you do?
I think Laura waits until he leaves. I think she goes, is there a bathroom or something? I think she goes over there and then she has takes a look at the planner.
We'll come back to that. Astronauta, what are you doing after you grab the paper? You kind of thumb through it. It's a small town paper, so it's not very big, right? You can thumb through it and quickly see there's nothing of use in it. But what do you do after that?
I guess see if we can go to the newspaper building, maybe look in some archives. I don't know. What would you like to do, Ida?
Well, I think that's a good idea. We could try to correlate some of the events we've seen. Yeah, let's take a look. I'm sure, we're from out of town. We could maybe procure a tour. You're of course a well-established journalist.
Yes, I think this is a great idea. Let's do it. So we'll head to the newspaper building.
On the way, you see a woman, an old woman, positively covered in costume jewelry, just layered on top of her, and sitting on a little stool nearby. And she sees the two of you, and she says, "I tell fortunes. I can tell your fortune, if you'd like."
Sure. That Esther, come on, maybe she knows something. Sure, that sounds great.
She says, my name is Bessie Johnson.
Is that like a stage name? It's not very ornate.
Should it be?
Well, you tell fortunes. Anyway, what do I give you my palms to? I'm not very familiar with how this works.
She says, And she's sort of like staring at you a bit. And she says, come inside. And she takes you down a little alley between the newspaper building and the building she's sitting in front of. And there's a little side door.
Is there not a front door?
No. This is not a place of business. This is where I live.
I think Ida will look to Esther and like raise an eyebrow.
I'll just shrug and like gesture towards the door. It's fine. She's old.
If we're in a real pinch, maybe Beau could overpower her.
Yeah.
So Ida and I presume Esther and Beau will follow along.
She opens the door, and there are stairs going down. They are unlit. She waves you in, Ida. And then she looks at you, Esther, and says, my queen, to take your hand down, or to take you down.
I still have Bride of the Occluded King, so I guess I'm going down the stairs.
Indeed. Ruth, Mr. Montero's villa, manor, mansion, estate is quite grand, quite fancy. Lots of mishmash of styles. But the oldest stuff definitely seems to be Spanish colonial. He says, so what brings you to our fair little town out here in the middle of nowhere?
Oh, well, on our way to a birding convention and just had to stop for the night.
Well, you seem to have lucked out. These are the nicest digs in the whole town.
Well, I wasn't planning on staying here exactly.
An oasis in the desert, a refuge from the beating sun and the cracked earth.
I am like frantically texting Esther, like where I am, the description of this guy.
He says, you're very lucky. You've just caught me at lunch. And he says, the servants made extra, so you should join me. And he opens the door, these double doors, to this long table with this ridiculous spread of food on it. Appetizers and other things, and fruit carved into shapes, and big centerpiece and all this other stuff. And he sort of walks up to what appears to be like a plate of snails, like escargot. He says, do you like snails? What was your name, Ruth?
Oh yeah, Ruth. And I've eaten a snail or two in my time.
He's like, I think they're delicious. And he slurps it down out of the shell. Sets the shell down.
I'm definitely slurping a snail with this guy.
And he says, so are you interested in history, Ruth?
I'm always interested in history. Actually, I have a podcast, and I'd like to record this conversation if that's okay with you.
He says, well, unfortunately, electronic devices don't work in this part of the forest.
Oh, that would explain why all of my text messages are unsent, huh?
And here at this point, you'll notice that dominating the room is a tall portrait of him, but dressed as a conquistador, the armor, the hat, all that stuff, pantaloons. And on his shoulder, you see that rat whispering in his ear. And we'll just cut there. And we'll end with Laura in the bathroom going through the day planner. You are going through the day planner, and there's really nothing remarkable in it, if I'm being honest. But you'll notice that one of the stalls in the bathroom doesn't have a toilet. There's just a hole in the wall that seems to lead to a crawl space of some sort. What do you do?
I think Laura crawls in there,
A
kind
wise
of
move.
twisting her body to go in there.
You crawl into the space and you realize it's a ritual space. There is what appears to be an altar covered in dried, caked blood. And before the altar, there is an effigy of a strange god, a multi-limbed god with the head of a coyote. And that's actually your clue, and we'll end the session there.
We still have to do the dreams, right?
Oh, that's right, you do. That'll be the end of our session. Let's do our dreams. Everybody has to describe it's a dream they had last night. Maybe like in the hotel you were staying in on the way to Mesa or whatever, but it has to be according to the thing, it has to be a disturbing dream. Whoever wants to go first, take it away.
I think Laura woke up in the middle of the night, or it seemed that she woke up and she heard dogs barking, like almost like a concert of dogs barking. And it got more intense, and she started sweating, and then she woke up from that dream.
I think Ida had a dream the night before where she was walking through a town with like throngs of people in the streets, and after being there for just a moment, she started to notice that like everybody was like looking at her, and like as soon as anyone saw her, their eyes opened wide and their mouths dropped, and they were like shocked and staring at her. And she walked through for a moment confused by this until more and more faces turned her way. And then she looked down to see that like she had no skin. She was just all muscle and blood vessels and bone. And she like screams, and that's the end of the dream.
So I think Ruth's dream is like, I think she's back at the party at the Vidals, and I think it's just like Abner and Mrs. White dancing at this party, and they just stop and look at her and they're like, "Why did you lie?"
I love it. Was the dream like black and white old Hollywood, or was it like the modern day version of their home?
I think it was kind of a mix of the two, right? Like I think they looked modern and everything, but the house itself was like old Hollywood.
Good. Esther?
So I think that Esther's dream is one of those ones that appears like normal at first, and she's like walking down the streets of Brindlewood Bay. And as she's doing it, the streets feel like they're getting narrower and tighter. And like every time she looks back, she sees the sheriff. And so she's like trying to like dodge between these streets that are like enclosing on her. And she can't ever seem to get away from the sheriff, just constantly like creeping up on her.
Does the sheriff eventually start to take the form of a minotaur? That'd be amazing.
Sure, we could say that.
Going through the labyrinth streets. Good. Okay, well, that'll be the end of session then. Let's go through our end of session questions. Yes, you solved a mystery, kind of, but yeah, you per the game's rules, you solved a mystery. You all get to mark an XP. Let's go in order here. Esther, did you dote on someone?
I don't think that I doted.
Did you behave like a woman half your age?
Probably not. If I'm being honest, I don't think so. An
extrajudicial punishment.
Yeah, I definitely did that one.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, definitely against the sheriff. It's all kinds of extra punishment going on there. Fabulous. Let's go to Ruth. Did you show someone that you've still got it, Ruth?
I don't think so.
Did you share a memory of a late family member?
I don't think I did that either.
All right, let's go to Ida. Did you share a memory of a late family member? Oh, you're muted, David.
There's the stuff around her husband, Hugh, but I feel like most of that was last session.
Yeah. Did you secretly undermine the authority of a local official? Getting the sheriff put in jail.
Yeah, I suppose that does.
Probably counts.
Yeah, especially since Ida and Esther were sort of the ringleaders of that op. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Tend to agree. Laura, did you share your wisdom with a young person?
I tried with the sheriff about having traveled a lot and small places always needing.
Oh yeah, I'm into that. Yeah. And he's younger, so yeah, I'm into that. And did you behave like a woman half your age?
No, I think I was looking all the time for some kind of daring feat, but if the crawling into this space at the end is not that, which I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
Much.
Yeah, not right now. Yeah.
Very good. And with all that said, let's do stars and wishes. Whoever wants to go first, we got a few minutes. Take it away.
So I liked that that Laura's magic was yoga based.
I'll do a star for your commitment to the crows bit, Dan. I was really into that.
Oh yeah,
that was enjoyable.
If you're wondering, there is a garbage dump in Brownsville that crow goes to. It's a very big burning hotspot.
Good to know.
Star to all of us inadvertently leaving Laura alone again and just continuing this trend.
Yeah, that was great. Just I'm just gonna get some rooms and then everybody's just gone. So I think that's great. Yeah, I like the whole atmosphere with the woods and this kind of unclear situation between the desert and these lush woods. I think that was great. The whole atmosphere and the different pieces of it.
I just want to throw a star out there for everyone being amenable to the blame Sheriff Dalrymple solution for the first mystery today. I thought that was great, and I'm really excited to see where that might bring us later. So,
yeah, on a similar vein, star for everyone kind of rolling with the punches of the Dale Cooper dream, because the Dale Cooper move sort of injects a certain element of like Twin Peaksy, David Lynchy kind of like surreal horror, and so I just kind of went for it, and everybody kind of like went with it. So I was super happy about that.
Yeah, just a
Also a
star there
star.
for just a star there to you, Jason, for really capitalizing on that. I thought that scene was great. Felt planned, even though obviously it wasn't.
I was winging it the whole time.
I kind of like the accident paint a scene. These little things came together quite interestingly. And I'm still wondering what the big handprint, if we're gonna find out what did that.
Yes.
Star for those fucking stairs. Like, I didn't realize how haunted I was by stairs until you put them right there again.
Indeed, indeed.
And I like a star for Ida just tossing that heart in a jar, just tossing it in the woods and being like, done with that.
This definitely isn't important, and I shouldn't hold on to it. No, just along the vein of just picking up things and rolling with it. I love Ravens, and so having one introduced, I was like, oh, I definitely want to like bring this into the story somehow, and then like to have not only Ida sort of bring that in, but then have Ruth pull that in, and just to make that a thing. I thought that was really good.
Well, it's actually it's a listed side character in the mystery too. Yeah.
Well, excellent. Well, I'm glad I.
It's called the Devilwood Raven. Yeah, so. Any other wishes or any other stars?
Maybe a wish for me is that I am potentially in this mystery we can work in my Michael Knight next time.
Yeah, we need to see Michael Knight. Yeah,
we drove here maybe in my beat up old truck potentially. So maybe I'd like to see that come into play.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. I agree.
I, as a wish, I really want Ruth to pull one over on this captor who has her. I'm very curious as to how that situation's going to go. So
I'll say that for me, it's not a wish, but it's kind of an observation, I guess. But one of my very, very favorite Call of Cthulhu modules is called The Secret of Castro Negro. I've covered it on our show Fear of a Black Dragon, and it's sort of inadvertent, but I've been like basically turning Devilwood into Castro Negro and like using a lot of the elements of that module, like just because I'm so familiar with that module, like into this. And what kicked it off is whoever had the detail about the Spanish the conquistadors. That was what kicked it off, because Castro Negro takes place in New Mexico, and it's about conquistador witches, basically, and the sort of after effects, years later, centuries later. And so it's been kind of fun for me to sort of, kind of like play with some of the ideas from that module and incorporate it into this Devilwood town, which is made extra hilarious because of the whole Hex Files filmed in Vancouver joke, it just like makes that like even more like, I don't know, there's an absurdity there that makes it enjoyable for me.
That reminds me that there's another wish that, because I think it sounds like Alicia has also been leaning on this a little bit with having the fact that our surroundings are so wrong with what they should be. Having that not only be like, of course, a joke about the X Files, but also be incorporated into the mystery somehow.
Right. Yeah. I like that the side characters act like it's a desert, even though like it's transparently not. But yes. and I like that Esther and Ruth have like openly questioned well, it's a really lush desert, or oh, this doesn't make sense. Yeah, it's fun. It's kind of a fun meta thing, I guess. And it all kind of ties into Sweeps Week really well too. The whole Sweeps Week concept, we're really getting that experience because it's so gonzo, right? And so and so supernatural tinged. So enjoying that. Anything else before we go? Okie doke. Well, that was great fun. I'm going to hit stop on the recording.